Hey everybody, this is Rice Bonds, Montana D. Young, back here with you again. And today I have a really unique mail day. One that's unlike any I've ever had before. And the reason I say that is because I've never sent in cards for grading before. And for the first time, I recently decided to do that. Just because a lot of my best raw cards were sitting in a semi rigid somewhere and they just didn't feel secure. I needed to get them slabbed up and archived, put away somewhere safe, so that I wouldn't have to worry about them. And so I finally bit the bullet and picked maybe the worst time in card collecting history to send my finest cards over to PSA to get graded. Before I did that, I sent my best cards over first to a friend of mine, Joe, who is a dedicated Griffey collector, to have a look and tell me what he thinks were the cards that were most likely to be worth grading. And and in the end, what happened was that I was getting ready to pay $100 per card, and it was supposed to be $100 per card, as you can see. The the service level was the lowest service level, so $100 per card plus the shipping would have been $537, and the declared value of each of those cards were about $1,400 a piece, with one being 1,000. And so, I mean, spending $500 to grade five cards is pretty unthinkable. But it was an investment in my peace of mind and my ability to just get these finally archived, squared away, and tucked away somewhere safe, in a case that would protect them for the long term. So I just bit the bullet and did it. And unfortunately, I came back with not very many mint grades. In fact, only one. And they upcharged me for, I think, four of the cards. So instead of paying 500, I paid 1,700 to grade five cards, which is unthinkable for somebody who never plans to sell these cards, is a pure collector. And I was thinking about actually reaching out to the CEO of PSA, Nat Turner, to ask him if he had ever given some thought to having a different price tier for people who put their cards on the registry, or like don't sell them for a certain number of years. These were not cards that I wanted to flip, so I understand why they would be worth it for somebody who was doing that, but that wasn't my story, and so this was really kind of a brutal hit that I took. But you know what? This is my first time grading, and I dithered and dillied and dallied, and this is what resulted. So I sent in my five best cards, and the grades might shock you a little bit. So first off is the 1999 Metal Universe PMG. I got this relatively recently, so the ending price may have been on record, and it may have been too easy to assume that this card was worth some absurd amount just because of how PMGs have been doing recently. This is probably the worst time to be submitting a PMG to PSA, because I think they're just going to assume that it's a baller card. I don't think a 7 really affords a card, doesn't really add much value to a card, and yet instead of $100 they charge me, I think, something like $600 to grade this card. I'm not really sure what tier this entered, but it would have been really ticky tack. I mean, this card could easily be seen as a $1,400 or thereabouts card. It's only within the very recent hysteria that these cards have been seen as anything more than just that. I was hoping that the new cases of PSA would all have Mylar sleeves within them, because I think that affords a card better protection. Unfortunately, in this case, there is no Mylar sleeve. It looks like it's just hard plastic. So, what a shame. I was thinking about asking for a Mylar sleeve for each one of these, just because they're so chippy and prone to damage. But, well, there you have it. 1999 got a PSA 7 on that one. For the 1998, this card I thought had a chance at a 9. I mean, it was a really clean card. There's not really any micro scratches, not really many to write home about. The back is pretty clean. I mean, I see that the edge up there is pretty rough, I suppose. Man, I have to take a look at scans to see if that card looked like that back then, because I don't remember the card having that rough a back. I mean, I do remember this thing down here, but I don't remember that on the back. I'm gonna have to look at a scan to see if something happened to that edge on the way. But a PSA 8, I don't know. This also got upcharged to, I think, $600 to grade it. And this is a beautiful card. You know, one of my favorites. You guys have seen me talk about it when it was raw. I was really hoping that there would be a Mylar sleeve in here within the case itself to protect the face of the card from scraping against hard plastic. But again, that was not to be. So I just have to live with my choices. Third up is the 1997 Pinnacle Mirror Gold from Certified Team. This is the subset that only, I think, 20 superstars made. And this graded an 8 with the peel on. So that's fine. I didn't think it was likely to get anything higher than that. I was just disappointed, obviously, that they charged me a bump. And since this card hadn't sold on the public markets for many years, maybe none has ever been sold publicly. I'm surprised that they would bump this into a higher tier of value and then upcharge me. But an 8 is, I think, a pop 1. I don't think there's any graded higher. There may not be any graded period by PSA. These cards are very rare. They're out of 25. This is 19 of 25. It's a beautiful card, and it looks better now that it's in a PSA case, but I don't think it's worth $600 for the satisfaction of that. This card, I was told, was undergraded, and this card should have gotten a 9, but it got an 8, and I was, as a extra sort of slap in the face, I was upcharged for this one as well. This is the Super Rave from 1998, 1 out of 25. I was told by Joe that he thought that this really was deserving of a 9. And that I kind of aided a little bit on this one. So, condolences, he said to me, but an 8 is probably none higher as well. And then the one saving grace was the fact that I was able to spike a 10 on this one, which I think is pretty interesting because the card is not perfect. The corners are definitely not perfect. They just seem that way because it's white bordered, sort of cream bordered. But this is a pop 2. Obviously none higher. It's very, very sweet card to have. When I opened it on camera initially, I remember thinking to myself how beautiful the autograph was and how glossy and perfect the surface was. Now this one looks like it may be in another layer here. I don't know. I was hoping it would be a layer of Mylar, but instead, no. I see the Newton circles here. Those are the sort of concentric, those little spirals that you see that are kind of rainbow colored that look like the colors of soap bubbles. I see that from certain angles, so that tells me that the card is actually pressed up against this hard plastic. So this is kind of what I was afraid of. I was really hoping to get these cards with some soft plastic between them. I'm wondering if I can just maybe get in contact with PSA and say, hey guys, upon, further reflection and just given the amount of protection in these cases, any chance you can give me a partial refund? I'm just going to crack these all out of their cases. I can do it on camera and send you the evidence and then slip them into a Mylar sleeve before going in. I just thought that there was a Mylar sleeve in all of these new cards, and I can't really, there might be actually, because I'm getting reflection. I'm getting a reflection there in the corner, which suggests to me that there might be something inside here. I can't really, you know what I mean? Like I can see a reflection in the gap there that is not on the surface, and that to me may suggest that there's another layer of plastic inside, which if that's the case, I'd be much, much happier. Let me see. Oh my goodness. Let me see if this is also the case here. can't really tell if there's plastic here. I feel like maybe there is. Maybe there is plastic protecting these. If that's the case, that would make a big difference to me. If back here in this little gap, I can see the reflective surface of obviously the front surface of this slab, and then within it, there's another layer. If that's the case, then I'd be much happier with these. Then I wouldn't crack them out. I would just keep them as is, because they would afford better protection than sitting in a one touch. That's for sure. Anyways, these are all cards that are huge, the biggest that I own, and so they're heavy hitters. They're not exactly unknown to the hobby, but still, since the 90s are still such a minor genre when compared to the rest of the industry, I thought maybe that these cards would be seen as the sort of, I don't know, black sheep that they are, the type of cards that nobody really wants any part of, except the hardcore collectors of a player or a set. It is pretty sweet to get a 10. I just feel like if you're going to upcharge somebody, you should do it for when it's an obvious situation where the grade has greatly increased the value, the sale value of a card. And ironically, this card was the only one they did not upcharge, and it's the one that got a 10. So I know that this is a pop 2. I think that this is a pop 1, but there's just not a lot of opportunities to grade cards that are out of 25. I think these may be one of the only ones graded. If they are, they're the highest graded. Obviously, if they're the only ones graded, they would be the highest and the lowest ever graded. And I believe that there are actually none higher of each of these either. But that's just because these cards are all so rare. I mean, that's out of 100. These are out of 50. And these are out of 25. And it's just very, very difficult to locate a card, much less find a gradable card, So that's part of the reason why all of these are pop 1 or 2 and none higher. I would like to see some folks who have some of these cards maybe come out of the woodwork and grade some of these to see if they can spike a higher than an 8 here. I really thought that this card was deserving of a 9. I thought that this card was deserving of a 9. It would have taken some of the sting off to pay that much for 5 cards, $1,700. I mean, can you imagine the amount of Grail cards you can get of almost any player for that amount of money? And just for the right of having these plastic slabs on them, man, I really do have to think by priorities. But it also gave me sort of a different perspective and how difficult it is to grade. And I always scoffed at 8s and thought, man, an 8 just really means that card kind of sucks. That's, I think, kind of an immature way of seeing it, especially now in retrospect in the current market with PSA grading much more stringently than they used to, from what I understand. An 8 is a perfectly respectable grade. When I see an 8 and even a 7 in this case, like I know what kind of shape this 99 PMG is in. It's in very nice shape given how chippy it is. And the fact that they got a 7 tells me that even a 7 for a condition sensitive set like this is a very, very nice grade. Maybe back in the day this could have been a 9 and some of these could have been 10s, but not anymore. In the new landscape, they're studying these cards a lot more carefully, and it's just a lot harder to spike a super high grade. But this is my first, and unless things change drastically, my last submission with PSA in a long while, if not ever. The rest of my cards are going to go out to CSG at $12 a piece rather than $100. Even if you win the lottery and get a super cheap coupon, it's still $50 a piece, prohibitively expensive for anybody who's not flipping these cards for an immediate profit. But I would like to thank Joe, my good friend, for taking the time out of his busy day to look at these and give me his best judgment. And I think he gave me good advice. These cards are absolute monsters. These cards are absolute monsters in the hobby, and they will not likely be going down in value anytime soon. And these are 5 more of these rare babies that are out of the market, right? These are pretty much gone forever until I've moved on and until my estate moves on. These are going to be with me. So that just makes it more difficult to the point that my friend Rodney, another Griffey collector, made in a recent IG/YouTube podcast. You know, each year that passes is one more year that a card like this falls into the hands of a collector like myself, who's never going to leave these cards. And that's just one less now to chase, right? For everybody else, that's like now a 1 out of 24, a 1 out of 24, 1 out of 99, and a 1 out of 49 for these. So good luck to those who are still going after them. They're just getting prohibitively expensive. I felt like I had to get in now or never. So thanks for sharing in this painful moment with me. I mean, it is nice. It is a triumph to have these cards in their slabs finally, but at the same time, the amount of fees that I paid versus the grades that I got, I don't know. Why don't you guys tell me what you think? Am I ungrateful? You know, like should I be thankful for the amount of value that PSA has imparted on these cards, or do you think it's unfair that PSA would charge a different amount to create a card, even though they put the same amount of effort into it? You know, like they don't do anything special with higher value cards. They spend the same amount of resources and manpower to grade these cards. Should there be that big of a gap between a card that is worth supposedly a lot of money versus not? I don't know. I mean, it's reasonable minds can honestly disagree, but I'd like to hear what you guys think about it. Anyways, thanks for watching and spending time with me on this one. I guess the last thing I will say is I picked up a nerd card for myself. My buddy Joe brokered a deal for me with one of his friends who had this on eBay, and I've been looking for this a while. It's the Wonder Years from Upper Deck. I believe it's 1999. I can't really see. It might be 1998. And I have a couple of legs of this. I think there's also a 1 of 1, but I've always wanted the 1 out of 50. One of my friends, who's a Tim Salmon and Frank Thomas collector, showed a Nomar Garcia Power off very early in my 90s career. And ever since, I've wanted this card. So I overpaid by quite a bit to get it. It's not really a card that's super sought after. It's the type of card that you probably would be able to find in a dollar bin at a show somewhere in the middle of the country or on the coasts. But this has not come up in a long time, so I figured I'd pick it up. So it just got mailed out with the rest of the stuff that came in with me. So it's actually a huge mail day. I mean, just behold the cards here. It is a really stunning array of cards, not to mention the ones in the backdrop there. And the fact that they're 8s now no longer disappoint me, because look at the beating that I took. Oh my goodness, guys. Yeah. Leave your comments. I'm sure you guys, some of you have something to say or have thoughts about having witnessed this. Okay, until next time, guys. Take care.